Where do the Dallas Stars fall in the final power rankings of the season? The Roope Hintz Selke conversation may be heating up, and the playoff picture is becoming more clear. That and more coming up next on Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Happy Tuesday, Stars fans. Can you believe it? We're just 4 days away from the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just one more game remains. The finale against the St. Louis Blues tomorrow, and then the regular season is over, and it's time to get down to business with the Stanley Cup playoffs. We still don't know for certain who the first round opponent is going to be, but it's becoming a bit more clear. We'll talk about that later on in today's episode. We'll talk about Roope Hintz and his case for the Selke Trophy, but I want to begin today with the power rankings by The Athletic. The top 10 teams in the National Hockey League. Where do the Dallas Stars fall? And I'll even throw some of my opinions out there and maybe where some teams should be or should not be heading into the final week of this season. The nice thing is the President's Trophy is locked up, or at least out of the conversation for the Dallas Stars. The New York Rangers, as I'm recording this, have won their final game of the season, so the Stars are out of that conversation, which may be a good thing. Maybe they don't have to get the curse this year because a lot of teams have certainly struggled after winning that trophy. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So The Athletic puts out their power rankings every week or so, and it's always interesting to go back and take a look at where the Stars were throughout the season. But here's the final ones heading into the postseason. And yes, your Dallas Stars are the number one team in the National Hockey League. Of course, 50, 21, and 9 on the season. And they do one big note or one big stat with each team in these power rankings. And for the Dallas Stars, it's the Steven Stamkos Trophy, which goes to the best sophomore season. And no surprise, that's Wyatt Johnston. Of course, he's reached the 30-goal mark for the first time in his career. He is part of elite company, hitting 30 goals as a 20-year-old. The amount of numbers and the amount of elite talent he is with after notching that record to his belt is pretty astronomical. Of course, he's one of the best 5-on-5 players in the National Hockey League. Like, he's up there with Connor McDavid at 5-on-5 expected goals for percentage. He is incredible. So they show some love to the Dallas Stars here in the number one spot. I would not put Dallas at number one, believe it or not. I like New York for a number of reasons, and I will give them the edge because of their back end. I think they're just a bit deeper. And New York is one of those teams that's been very good for a long time. Maybe this is the time they break through. Maybe it's not. But they have Igor Shesterkin, who, of course, is a top 3 goalie in the National Hockey League. He's having another phenomenal start. Panarin is lighting the world on fire. The Russian phenom continues to just blitz everybody this season. I don't think they're as balanced as Dallas up front, just because Panarin, I think the gap between him and Trocheck, who's the second leading scorers, around 30 points. I don't think they're as deep up front, but on the back end, they have some very, very good defensemen. Of course, Adam Fox, who will probably finish somewhere in the top 5 in the Norris. You have Gustafsson. Schneider's a real solid player, and you can't forget about Trouba. And of course, Keandre Miller. I think New York is is probably the number one team at this point. They have Carolina at number 2. And Carolina is another interesting team. They gave them the best deadline trade, the Dean Lombardi Trophy. Of course, they went and acquired Jake Gensel. He's fit right in and probably edges out Chris Tanev as the best deadline deal this season. Of course, Tanev, the way he came in and has made an immediate impact with the Dallas Stars, not only himself, but making the Stars a better defensive team in general, making other players around him because of his ability to fit in with Essa Lindell to become that second pairing that's just completely shut down, which allows Pete DeBoer to be versatile to put Thomas Harley, or at least keep Thomas Harley with Miro Heiskanen. They're one of the best defensive pairings in all of hockey. And we all know where we're going to get with Ryan Suter and probably eventually Yanni Hakanpää when he returns to the lineup. By the way, there was some news. Dadonov is very, very close to returning. Hakanpää, not as much, but they do want to try to get him into the game. So we'll see tomorrow after morning skate if they're able to get both of them in. Otherwise, don't be surprised if Hakanpää is ready to go for game 1 on Saturday night of the first round. So a lot of answers still have to be, or I should say, a lot of questions are still having to be answered here throughout the week. They have the Florida Panthers at number 4. I love Florida. I really do. It's just a team that's not a lot of flash. A lot like Dallas, right? They just have a bunch of dogs. They really do. They grind it out. Matthew Tkachuk is phenomenal. Sam Reinhart is unbelievable. We're going to touch on him a bit here with Roope Hintz in the Selke conversation. Just a stud, in a contract year. Oh, that guy's going to get paid a boatload of money. Roope Hintz has already been paid. He is somebody that is just a bargain every single day. And I'll wait for that conversation here later on in today's episode. But Florida comes in at number 4. They have Edmonton at number 5, Boston 6, Colorado 7, Vancouver 8, 9 Winnipeg, and then 10 the Toronto Maple Leafs to round out your top 10 power rankings. I don't like Winnipeg that much. I really don't. I say it constantly, and I've said it throughout the season. They don't scare me a ton, even though they just beat the brakes off of Colorado about a few days ago. I don't know what is with them. They remind me of 21-22 Stars. They have a great goaltender who can easily steal a series. And they're better up front probably than I give them credit for. But it's just a team that I think it's bias being a Stars fan, and the Stars have not really struggled with Winnipeg this season. Of course, there's a caveat. The last game they faced them, Winnipeg shut them out 3-0. Okay, I completely understand that. But I feel like Winnipeg has to play their best game to beat the Stars like that. That's their best game. And if they're off by a bit, they can't handle Dallas. They can't handle them. I just straight up, that's my opinion on the matter. So I'd probably bump them down a bit. Vancouver's such an intriguing team. I think they're a top 5 team in the NHL, but there is a lot of questions come playoff time with it being a pretty young roster. Of course, they have phenomenal pieces, but man, Demko is a beast. He's had a phenomenal season. He's going to be a great candidate for the Vezina this season, and they could just have some lightning in the bottle. They have some depth too. I mean, JT Miller's having a career year. Brock Besser has been a stud, and Quinn Hughes is going to win the Norris. He should, if you ask me. They just have a lot of pieces too that are intriguing. It would not be surprising if they're a young team that makes a deep run. If they were in the Western Conference Finals, yeah, that makes some sense. I mean, they've been clear cut the favor in the Western Conference for a large part of the season until the last month or so when the Stars have just gone on this incredible run. I have Dallas I would put them as the number 3 team behind New York and Carolina. Hurricanes have been playing really well down the stretch. They've won their last 5. Their schedule's been a bit easier, and that's not a knock on Dallas as well. Look, they took care of the bottom feeders of the NHL, and there is something to be said for that. You have to play the schedule at hand, and they beat some of those teams but I think Carolina, maybe this is a year where they kind of break through. But at the same time, it takes a lot. A lot of bounces have to go your way, and it's going to have to be the same for Dallas and for all these teams. You got to have some luck on your side. The good thing is that where Dallas has an edge is depth. Depth. It matters every single season. I don't care who you are. Usually the team with the best depth by the end of the season is holding the shiny silver trophy at the end of the year. Look at Vegas. You can withstand injuries constantly. And yes, they manipulate the cap to the best of them. Kudos to them because it works out very, very good. They figured out how to win in a salary cap era. A lot of teams should copy that. You should copy it. It really works. If you can use it to your advantage, you can stay healthy enough, or more importantly, you're healthy at the right times. Healthy at the right times. And Dallas is pretty healthy. Their forward, Dadonov, he's a part of the forward group, but not a huge impact. Hakanpää, of course, is probably going to be an everyday player in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Whether that's right or wrong is another conversation, and a conversation, frankly, we've had way too much here over the last month, along with Niels Lundqvist. Just book it. He'll be in the lineup. And I wouldn't say he's like the most important factor on the back end for the Dallas Stars. Jani Hakanpää will be a body that's going to be physical, and hopefully his game tailors to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't believe it's going to be great, especially if you pair him with Suter, but I'm going to hold off judgment on that because Dallas has been very willing to change up their pairings. And we've seen it especially over the last 3 weeks. I mean, everybody's playing with everybody, which is another great sign that I think really shows how great Dallas is Miro can play with Essa can play with Harley, Tanev can play with Miro, you name it, put them together, it's going to work out. It's going to work out because injuries will happen. Roope Hintz may miss a few games. Knock on wood, but that's usually the case in a long playoff run. What you hope is a long playoff run. You got to get through a few rounds, but what you hope is a long playoff journey, you're going to have guys that miss time, and you're going to have guys that step up. The Dadonovs of the world who may be upstairs in round one watching. He may be a healthy scratch, but you know what you're going to get out of him. If someone's banged up, he steps right in. You're going to get a very solid piece. And Dallas has had guys go down all year. They've missed Otter for a month. They missed Miro for a month. They've missed Hakanpää now for, what is it? I think coming up on a month. Dadonov's been out since February, and well, they just win. They score goals. Usually pretty tidy up front. Otter's been a heck of a lot better over the last month. And they win a lot of games. Anyway, that's my little diatribe for you here to end the first segment about power rankings. Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section where you would have the Dallas Stars amongst the best in the National Hockey League. I like to have them at 3, and maybe that's just me not trying to be overzealous about it. Just keep them under the radar. Do your thing and keep getting the job done. Let's segue this conversation into Roope Hintz, who, of course, we brushed over in the first segment. He's phenomenal. Every single year in and year out. We had this conversation a few weeks ago. For all you everydayers out there, you know it. But The Athletic also put out an article about the Selke conversation. They don't think he's going to win it necessarily, but he's getting a lot more love because of a few reasons. And I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. We got baseball, which is in full swing as well. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Go ahead. Plop up on your couch on a Sunday, plop up in the next few weeks, watching the playoff action amongst the NBA and the NHL and make some money while you're watching the game. Have some fun, have some skin in the game. Bet on everything from slap shots, you got home runs, slam dunks, all on the app. It's safe, secure, and easy to use. Take the 30 seconds right now. Go to your smartphone, go to the Google Play Store, App Store, whatever it is, download the FanDuel app. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon as well, and you can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. You heard me, Stars fans. $150 win or lose. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, Stars fans, look, I'm not blind to the fact that the DFW Metroplex it's a football town at the end of the day, but you guys have been phenomenal jumping on this little bandwagon. And some of you aren't on just the bandwagon. You've been here all season long, but for some of the hockey fans that have jumped on here recently, big shout out to you that are ready to go for the postseason. It's one of the best things about Dallas is everybody just supports all the teams when it matters the most. So welcome aboard. But I also want to remind you about the Locked On NFL mock draft. It's live on April 17th. So tomorrow it's on YouTube. It's free on the Amazon Fire TV channels apps as well. We're going to go through all the different picks, all the different angles. So the NFL mock draft. I'll be honest, I've been watching a lot of draft stuff. I watched the NFL draft show for the Cowboys, by the way. Of course, some of my former colleagues, which is really weird to say, do that show. And I've been pretty locked in recently. So I'm kind of excited to see who the Cowboys take maybe in round one. But okay, back at the task at hand, the Dallas Stars are the #1 priority on Locked On Stars. So I don't want to bore you with too much football talk, but look, we know it pays the bills sometimes in DFW. It's the Cowboys, even though they're not going to do anything differently. Okay. The Dallas Stars will. Roope Hintz will. And that's why he's going to be in the Selke conversation once again. You know, it's a shame he hasn't been in the top 5 in his career. It really is. But maybe that changes this season. Of course, he's hit 30 goals once again, and he just does it so quietly. He really does. And I had that conversation with everyone a few weeks ago, but there's also some great numbers that go along amongst some of the league leaders. I just talked about Sam Reinhart and how phenomenal he's been. Alexander Barkov, his teammate, is going to be probably the Patrice Bergeron type of figure with the Selke here over the next decade or so. He is kind of the prototypical, just phenomenal two-way center. And maybe Roope is not in that conversation as much, but he sure as heck should be. And they mentioned this one thing that I think will really help moving forward for Roope. Roope Hintz shoulders the toughest workload in Dallas. In years past, he shared that with Radek Faksa, but now he's the leading defensive center on the Stars, which of course makes him a fixture in the conversation by him being the #1 defensive center. Expected goals against per 60, 2.06 this season. His on-ice goal differential is a +20, which is actually tied for a team high. And this is at 5-on-5 with Mason Marchment, which I thought was very intriguing. Mason Marchment with a +20 on ice goal differential. If you look at expected goal differential, Hintz is up there too at 12.8. So not only, of course, is he have the offensive talent, but he really shuts down opposing lines. At 5-on-5, the goals against per 60, 2.37, which is actually highest amongst the Selke candidates they show within this graphic with Barkov, Jordan Stahl, Adam Lowry with Winnipeg. So he does have a higher offensive upside than others. And maybe that gets inflated a bit with Jason Robertson and Joe Pavelski. But at the same time, Roope Hintz is the driver of that line. There is no question about that. When he's at full gallop, he is the driver of that #1 line. And he doesn't do very much damage on the power play. He's not really the fulcrum or the facilitator like Barkov is, because he's such a silky passer. Oh, he's one of the best passers in the league. And I feel like I'm gawking at a lot of other players in the league, but I just love great hockey players. So I'm going to show love to players that deserve it. And Roope Hintz certainly does. But him being the sole workload defender for the Dallas Stars up front is really going to help his case. And I love that they mentioned that because, of course, Radek is not playing as much. He played a lot under Rick Bowness, but he doesn't play as much under Pete DeBoer. And I've talked about it so many times. Hintz is always in the right spot. And how many times, just because of the way the Stars defend, they're a bit of a man-on-man team. So he always has to pick up, or for a majority of the time in the defensive zone, he has to pick up a lot of forwards that are right in front of the crease. And he never gets beat. I can probably count on it my hands how many times that maybe Roope got beat in front of the net to a loose puck or rebound, anything. He's so good with his stick. He's in perfect position. He's great at tying guys up because he is physical. Yes, he is fast as can be, and he's like an antelope out there at some points, but he is really great in tight areas, especially in front of his own net. And that's what makes Finnish players so great as well. Europeans, you can never underestimate how great they are in both zones. So would love to see him get into that conversation, maybe creep into the top three this season. Reinhart's going to have a great chance just because he's scored goals galore, and he deserves it. Look, he certainly deserves it. But Roope Hintz may be starting to heat up here in the final few weeks. So we'll see what kind of comes out of the Selke conversation as the playoffs roll around. I think all those awards get announced in the Stanley Cup playoff, or the Stanley Cup final, I want to say, is when a lot of those awards come out. So we'll see how that all factors in as the year goes along. But some more love for Roope Hintz, because why not? He's awesome. And he's part of the Finnish Mafia, man. He's part of the Finnish Mafia. Never a bad thing. Alrighty. The playoff picture. The Stars could play three different teams at this point. It really feels that way. Who will the Dallas Stars play? We know some more as I'm recording this now, and it will all begin to take shape as the night goes on. So let me tell you about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Sleeper. 4 days away from the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Stars fans, you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. I just talked about Roope Hintz. You can choose him. You can choose Joe Pavelski. Maybe Miro Heiskanen had a 3-point night his last time out. Pick more or less on certain Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus in a given game. And as I said, you can win 100 times your bet on Sleeper if you correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, 100 times your bet if you correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. And you know the Stars. You know the guys you need to choose on any given night. You have some information where you can nail your picks and win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and location availability. Alrighty, Stars fans, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today as well. It's on YouTube, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's also available on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Stars, hit that notification bell, never miss an episode. You can follow me on the Twitter thing, JoyTheJet19. Follow Locked On Stars. A lot of great content coming your way for the Stanley Cup playoffs. 4 days away. I'll keep reiterating it. 4 days away. Oh yeah, and the Dallas Stars are first place in the Central Division. Not only first place, they are Central Division champs. And I have an opportunity tonight, depending on how the game ends with Calgary and Canucks, to win the Western Conference. I think if Calgary, I want to say, and I could be wrong, I think if Calgary wins in any fashion, maybe it has to be regulation, but I want to say in any fashion, the Stars will win the Western Conference. Yeah, it should be anyway, because, Vancouver has 2 games. I think I'm pretty confident on that. If they win in any fashion, it could be regulation. I'm going to be back and forth on this. Okay. And now I'm going to be thinking about this for the next few days. Anyways, if Calgary wins, let's just say they win in regulation, the Dallas Stars will win the Western Conference, which will guarantee them home ice advantage throughout the entirety of that side of the bracket. They already have home ice for the first 2 rounds, but winning the West would be huge. Now, this is where it gets interesting with who the Stars can play. So, as I'm currently recording this, Minnesota is up 2-0 on LA. This would be big for Dallas since Vegas trails LA by just a point. So if LA falls, Vegas still has 2 games in hand. So 2 games to finish out the year, and they would only have to make up what could be at most 3 points because LA would still have 1 game after this one. And if Vegas jumps up to that 3 seed in the Pacific, then LA would drop down to that second wild card. I think Nashville is pretty comfortable in the wild card 1. I don't think anybody can jump them for that. I think that's almost set in stone. So really you're looking at LA and Vegas. I'm interested with Vegas. Do they want to play Dallas or do they want to play Edmonton? That is a very, very intriguing conversation to me. And I've mulled over this recently, and I feel like we're constantly coming back to this conversation. So I'm sorry we're talking about this ad nauseum, but look, this is the reality of the situation, who the Stars are going to draw in the first round. If Vegas gets the 3 seed, you got to play Edmonton. I mean, they're not going to have home ice either way. Edmonton's an easier team to beat than Dallas, right? I would say. You don't know what you're going to get all the time in net with Edmonton, but you do have to play the best player on the planet who can single-handedly win you games. So that's an interesting conversation and just an interesting thing to mull over. I will say Vegas has not been a great road team this year. They're just above 500, 18, 17, and 6. You look at Edmonton, they've been on a crazy run. They're 21 and 16. Out of all the teams that are in the playoffs right now, or at least in the top 3 seeds, all have over 20 wins on the road besides Colorado. Even Nashville's been phenomenal on the road. They have more wins away than they do at Bridgestone. Vegas is really good at home. And we've talked about it too. Home ice advantage does not mean what it used to mean. It is a lot different. Teams do not struggle as much in opposing barns. Game 7 is a different story, which I've touched on. I think Dallas is going to draw LA, and I think that is phenomenal. That is a great spot. Dallas, I mean, frankly, played 3 of their best games of the season at different points. They kind of played them early on, played a really great season. I want to say they played them in January and played one of their best games. And then over the last month or so, like just beat them up. Really, really beat up an LA team. I want to say LA came in at the end of a very long road trip, so they were a bit beat up. But I think LA would be a great first round match. I like that way better than Vegas. I'll say that. I want nothing to do with the Golden Knights. I just feel like that's a team that can flip the switch and really do some damage as a 8 seed in the Western Conference. They need to go back to 1 through 8. I'm tired of talking about this. 1 through 8 needs to be reestablished. And I guess at the end of the day, the Stars would still possibly play Vegas in a 1 to 8 scenario, but you understand what I'm saying. So I would love for the Stars to play LA. Stars have had Talbot's number. LA's pretty even on home and road. They have a plus 42 goal differential. Of course, Dallas is way up there at plus 63. So a lot of intriguing matchups. So it looks like it's going to be LA Vegas. And if the Wild are able to hold on here tonight on a Monday night, that would do wonders for the Dallas Stars and their opponents. But I feel like there's still a lot of things that can kind of flip-flop. We know Winnipeg and Colorado are going to play. And then Vancouver, it looks like they'll probably get Nashville here since Nashville wrapped up their season. They fell tonight. They fell to Pittsburgh. So they're done with 99 points. So I guess it would be possible for LA to even jump them. I guess it would have to be with tiebreakers. I don't know where the tiebreakers land with LA and Nashville. So I guess there is a world where the Stars can play the Predators too. There's a lot of intriguing. I think out of all three of those, I'm taking LA just because Nashville's been so good here down the stretch. That's a case of you could run into a hot team at the wrong time with a really good netminder. Saros can cause some issues for you. So that's kind of what the playoff picture looks like. And I know I say it's become a bit more clear and probably the last 8 minutes have proven otherwise talking about it, but there's a lot of things that still have to be answered here in the final week of the season. The good news is if the Stars just win on Wednesday night, they win the Western Conference, and then you draw who you draw. So the finale on Wednesday, it's a home game, and it's a national televised game against the St. Louis Blues. The Stars have been on national TV way too much this season. Just kidding. I love it when they're on national TV, and they've beat a lot of teams down in prime time. So that's never a bad thing. They flexed their muscles a few times this season. Alrighty, that's enough of me rambling for the past 30 minutes. Did not think I was going to go that long. But once again, I just can talk forever. Appreciate my boy, Max Siggy Steigoff. I'm going to be in different places almost every day this week as I head back home to Dallas. So appreciate all my wonderful, wonderful friends that allow me to use their spaces and make it my podcast studio and just completely take control of their spaces. So really, really appreciate that. And one of the great things about being able to do this is I can just take a mic on the road and be with you every single day. Isn't that right? All righty. Appreciate your time as always. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your week. The postseason is right around the corner. Stanley Cup playoffs. The energy is palpable, people. It's palpable. All right. We're about to buckle down here. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.